We are going to start today in extended child's pose. So we're going to bring the big toes together, knees as wide as the yoga mat, hips sink down to the heels, and we start to walk ourselves forward. If it's uncomfortable to bring the arms all the way extended out, you can always stack one hand on top of the other, resting the forehead on the top of the hands. Maybe fist over fist to rest the forehead. Maybe take some gentle sways and movement before extending all the way down. And we start to tap into our breath here, breathing down into the belly, feeling a release in maybe the low back or the shoulder girdle, maybe up in the armpits. So while you tap into your breath, releasing into extended child's pose, I'll introduce our theme today, which is returning. So returning or coming back. So this can be so many different things. So maybe you've gotten away from some habits that you know are good for you, but are difficult to stick with. So turning your attention then to what we call tapas or self-discipline and returning back to self-discipline. Maybe over the last couple of weeks, it's been really stressful and you've been engaging in mild forms of violence, whether that's to yourself or to others. So that can be not taking care of yourself or maybe being short with others. So turning then to ahimsa or nonviolence. Maybe it's you've drifted away from the connection to your spirit or your true self. So we would then return to and turn attention to what we call Ishvara Pranidhana or surrender. Or maybe you've simply been stuck in the future or past and need to come back to the present moment, turning your attention inward and using the breath as an anchor and a guide. So I'll let you reflect on that, our theme for today, returning, as we continue to deepen our breath in extended child's pose. After your next full breath cycle, so a full inhale and a full exhale, we'll gently start to walk ourselves to an inverted position. We're going to bring the knees in together. Lifting up, we're going to curl the toes under and sink the heels back on, or excuse me, the hips back onto the heels as we walk the hands up the thighs, sitting in a variation of what's called thunderbolt or Vajrasana. If this is uncomfortable on the toes, you can always bring the tops of the feet down to the mat. But when we're here, we're aiming to bring the pinky toe all the way down to the mat. And we're lifting up from the pelvis. So we're engaging in the hamstring. So we're not dumping all of our weight into the ankles, the feet, the knees. So there's still a lightness in the spine. I'm going to turn here so you can see me for this next stretch sequence. So once you're here and you feel nice and tall, we're going to bring the right arm extended out to the side. Fingers are pointing up towards the sky. If your wrist is in line with your shoulders and the fingers being up to the sky is just way too intense in this entire area, drop the arm down a little bit. Maybe the fingers come to a little more of a parallel position. And if you're here and you need a little bit more, you can always lift the arm higher, bringing the fingers closer to the sky. Or together, we drop the left ear to the left shoulder, exaggerating the stretch in the pectorals and the top of the shoulder down into the forearm. And if this doesn't bring the relief you're looking for, you can always bring your left hand to your right ear and gently apply pressure to exaggerate that stretch. Bring your attention back to your pelvis. If you're sinking down into the heels, lift up from the pelvis. One more inhale, and on your exhale, we'll relax, taking it over to the other side. Left arm extends, finding your placement. We look forward for an inhale, and on our exhale, we drop right shoulder or right ear to right shoulder. Exaggerating the stretch if we need to by bringing the right hand to the left ear. And on your next exhale, we'll relax. Go ahead and unravel the feet and shift forward onto all fours. Before we tap into our cat-cows, we're going to give the forearms and the wrists some love. So we're going to flip the fingers to face the body. So fingers are going to go towards the long edge of the mat and then come around to the midline. So we don't want to be moving them to the midline first. That would be incredibly uncomfortable. So body is in tabletop, fingers are back towards, pointing towards the body. If this is enough for you, if you're really tight, go ahead and just stay here and breathe down into the forearms, pulling the shoulder blades on the back together and down the back. If you need a little bit more, start to sink the hips back in space, getting closer to the heels, and find whatever sweet spot works for you today. Recognize whatever your edge is in your forearms. And we will meet it without going beyond it. There's no need to hyperextend or strain the tight muscles in these areas. We're still breathing down into the belly. One more inhale here. And on the exhale, bring the hands back into alignment. Fingers are facing the front of the mat. We're in perfect position to start tapping into our cat-cow. So again, shoulders are right above the wrists. Hips are right above the knees. Feet are either pressing down into the mat on the top of the foot, or toes can be curled under if that feels more stable. Belly button is pulled up towards the spine to protect the low back. We're doming out through the chest cavity by pressing into the fingertips of the hands. Gaze is straight down. Breathe into your tabletop for one breath cycle. We inhale. And a full exhale. Next inhale, we drop the belly, open the chest. Tail reaches up towards the sky, chest is wide open. Exhale, starting from the tail, we round through the spine, trying to pull the tail right up to the belly button. We exaggerate the dome, drop the crown of the head towards the mat. Inhale, drop the belly, open the chest. Exhale, we round through. Inhale, drop the belly, open the chest. Exhale, round through. Inhale, drop the belly, open the chest. Exhale, round through. On your next inhale, we're going tabletop as a transition and sinking the hips back to the heels. So we're going to do a spinal flow. I believe we've done this one before. So we start here in a variation of child's pose. We've got a firm foundation by pressing into the tops of the feet and still pressing into the fingertips of the hands. On the inhale, we start from the tail, tucking it up towards the belly button and letting the spine roll up until the shoulders are right above the wrists, and we drop the belly, open the chest, and sink, bending at the elbows, hips back down to our variation of child's pose. So we inhale, curl the spine until it brings our body, shoulders right over the wrists, and then drop the belly. And in the same motion, we sink back with the back still arched. Inhale, we pull from the tail. Shoulders over wrists, drop the belly, bend the elbows, start to sink back with a back bend. Again, inhale, we rise. Exhale, we fall. Inhale, rise. Exhale, fall. Let's do one more round, pulling from the tail. Really exaggerate the curve in your back. Chin is tucked to the chest, shoulders over wrists. Drop the belly, open the chest, sink down, child's pose. Go ahead and bring your big toes together if you like extended child's pose. You can always come into a traditional Balasana here with knees together if that feels better for you. And we sink belly, chest, forehead down to the mat. We're here for one breath cycle, so deep inhale. And a long exhale. On your next inhale, hips and low body stay nice and heavy. They stay right where they are. Hands walk off the left side of the mat. We get that big side body stretch on the right side. Hips stay nice and heavy. Stretching out the intercostals, supporting our breath. If you need a little more, bring the right hand on top of the left. And on your next exhale, we'll glide nice and low, right through center, over to the other side. And sink on the exhale. One more inhale here. And on the exhale, we'll come back to center. We're going to use our exhale to press into the tops of the feet, bringing ourselves back up to a tabletop position. We're going to bring the knees back underneath the hips. Bring your wrists into your tabletop alignment, just so we have a visual of where we're going. So elbows are first going to replace where the hands were. Okay. Toes curl under. Hips are going to stay right above the knees. As we start to walk the hands forward, chest and forehead fall down to the ground, puppy posture. Breathing big down into the belly.
We feel the tail or the spine, excuse me, extending out through the tail and growing tall out through the crown. If this is too much for you, you can always bring hand over hand and drop the head onto the palms. We're pressing that pinky toe down towards the mat. One more inhale. And on your exhale, we bend at the elbows, using them to replace where the hands were when we first began. We come up onto the hands, keeping them inverted at this angle from the shoulder to the wrist. Toes stay curled under. We inhale, and on our exhale, hips are going up high, downward facing dog. When you get there, take a moment to pedal it out if you need to, bending and straightening one leg and then the other. You need to bend your knees to keep the spine straight. That's okay. Biceps are right by the ears. We're widening the shoulder blades across the back. Elbow creases are shining forward or towards each other. Belly button is tucked up to the spine. Hips are nice and high. Take one more inhale here. And on your exhale, so normally we walk ourselves forward up to our hands. To stay in line with returning and coming back to, we're going to bend the knees and look forward towards your hands. Slowly, we're going to use our hands to walk ourselves into our forward fold at the back of the mat. So hands are coming to meet the feet this time. At the back of the mat, in your forward fold, Uttanasana. When you get there, maybe take some gentle sways. Maybe again, bend one leg, straightening the other. And then take a moment of stillness. Stay here for the inhale, and on the exhale, root to rise, we start to roll up to mountain. Hands come up overhead, palms kiss together, and descend at the heart space. Shoulders are pulled down away from the ears. Shoulder blades are pulled together and then melt down the back. Pelvis is tucked right underneath the heart space. Head right above the heart. We're firm in our foundation, our inverted triangle in the soles of our feet, our heel, the ball toe of the big, or the ball joint of the big toe, ball joint of the pinky toe. Arches are lifted and we're active through the inner thighs to midline. We're here for one breath. And now we're going to go on our slow walk. So when you move up to the front of the mat, see if you can move as slowly and mindfully as you can. So first we transfer our weight into one of your feet. The other foot lifts, coming down onto the heel slowly. If you trust yourself and trust your mat, maybe you can close your eyes when you do this. And gently feel the rocking onto the pads of the toes as the back foot lifts, comes airborne. And we set it down on the mat, heel, arch, toes. And again, the back foot lifts, heel, arch, toes. And our final step to meet us at the front of the mat. We're going to play around with the dance that we did last week, our sun salutations. You can add or omit anything that does or does not serve you today. So I'll walk you through and then let you play. So we inhale, arms go down to come up overhead. Exhale, we fold into our forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, lifts you up halfway. So we're strong through the legs, knees are engaged. We're pulling up from the thighs, bending from the hips. Belly button is tucked back to the spine. Gaze is straight down. Shoulder blades are pulled together. Hands can be tops of the thighs, shins, or down on the ground. Exhale, we fold. Hands come down to the mat. We step the left foot back, then the right foot back. We find ourselves in plank. Inhale. Exhale. If you want to do upward dogs in your flow, lower halfway. And on the inhale, we flip the feet, open the chest, lifting into upward facing dog. Inhale. And on the exhale, moving from the center, we lift the hips up high, flip the feet, and meet ourselves in downward facing dog for one breath. And the exhale sends us up. As we root to rise, roll up to mountain, arms up overhead, descending at the heart space. So you're gonna go for 8 rounds on your own, and I will cue you along the way, giving some additions if we need it. Arms go down to come up. Maybe you take a back bend here. Exhale, fold. Use the full exhale to move all the way down into Uttanasana. Inhale lifts you up halfway. Exhale, fold. Hands come down. You make your way into plank. Exhale lowers you halfway. Elbows are tight to the side body. Inhale, toes flip. Exhale, hips up high. Downward facing dog. You're here for one breath. Exhale. Root to rise. Coming up into mountain, palms kiss together. Exhale. Undulate mudra, hands at the heart space. Inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, we fold. Inhale, lifts you halfway. Exhale, fold. We come into plank. Maybe if you want, you take a 3-legged chaturanga dandasana into your upward facing dog. Maybe in downward facing dog, you take a moment for a 3-legged hip opener. Continuing to come back to the breath. Using it as an anchor and a reminder. Moving at your own pace. No two bodies are the same. Even if we ate the same foods, did the same exercises, drank the same amount of water, our bodies would still be different. And there's something so beautiful about that. So honor where your body's at. Moving at your own pace, but I've got 2 more here. Up overhead, full exhale brings you down into forward fold. Inhale lifts you halfway, exhale, fold. You're finding yourself getting a little bored with these repetitive movements. Try to bring your attention to the little nuances of alignment. Trying to sync up your breath with the movement. And remember too, that truth lives in repetition. There's truth in our habits, the way we think, the words that we say often, the people we hang out with. Last one. My point being, you find your mind wandering or a little bored. See if you can find some truth, either about your breath, your body, or a little more internally in the repetition of these movements. The next time you're in downward facing dog, we stay for 3 breaths. After your last exhale, we come up on the toes to drop the knees all the way down to the mat. Traditional balasana, knees together, arches together, hips sink back. We shoot the arms towards the back of the mat, letting the shoulders round forward. And we inhale down into the belly. You have water nearby and you need to hydrate. On your next exhale, we're pressing into the toe or tops of the feet. Arms come back up overhead. And we use our down dog as a transition. So we inhale, exhale, hips come up high. For one inhale, exhale fuels your movement up to a forward fold. So we're going to incorporate some movements here that we've done before and add some new ones. We're going to make a new dance today. So I've got notes here because we need a new dance. Okay, with fingertips on the ground, we're going to bring the toes together, the big toes together, and we're going to leave about 2 fingers worth space between the arches and the heels in the feet, okay? We're going to inhale, swing the arms up. At the same time that we do that, we're bending at the knees, biceps come up by the ears as we sink the hips low, chair pose. So we're shooting the spine, the tailbone down towards the ground. We're tucking at the pelvis just slightly, engaging the abdomen, drawing the belly button back towards the spine. Arms are up high, biceps by the ears, maybe you sink a little lower. We inhale. And on the exhale, we release back down to our Uttanasana. Fingertips come down to the ground. Right foot stays exactly where it's at. Left foot shoots back in space. We're in low lunge. Inhale. And on the exhale, we're using the exhale to move. And we're powering up to high lunge. Arms come up overhead here. So we know this one, we do low lunge, we know high lunge. We inhale to grow nice and tall. Exhale, we spiral on the back foot and open up, warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2, we know this one. Inhale, exhale, left arm is dropping down to the back leg. Right arm is coming up to the sky, and at the same time that we're lifting the right arm, we are straightening that right leg. So instead of peaceful warrior, today we're doing a reverse triangle. Exhale, brings you back to warrior two. So we bend that knee, only as a transition, as we pivot on the back foot, maybe stepping it a little bit closer. We interlace the fingers behind the tail, loop the shoulders, draw the shoulders down, straighten again that right leg, and bending from the hip, we look out towards the front of our mat, half pyramid. Inhale. Exhale, we release the arms, bend the right leg, hands come down to frame the foot, and in one fluid motion, we're bringing the right foot back into down to meet the left and transitioning into downward facing dog. So we're moving from the center and from the hip. Whoop. There we are. Inhale here for one breath. Exhale steps you back up. We bring the toes back together. We need to even it out on the other side. So we inhale, arms swoop up, and we sink down, chair pose, squeezing the thighs together, the inner thighs. One more inhale here. Exhale, fold, Uttanasana. This time, left foot stays where it's at. We step up, the right foot back, low lunge. So belly is right next to that left thigh, hips are squared off to the front of the mat. We're light on the fingertips. Back heel is spiking towards the back edge of the mat. We inhale, exhale, powers us up. High lunge, if you need to come up and then sink into position. Inhale, arms come up overhead, we grow tall. Exhale, spirals us open. Warrior two. Virabhadrasana two. Inhale, exhale, back arm drops to the back leg. Front arm starts to reach up to the sky, and like we have a string connecting our finger to our knee, we straighten. Reverse triangle. Viparita Trikonasana. Inhale. Exhale, we begin to bend that front knee, pivoting on the back foot, coming back into our high lunge. We interlace our fingers behind at the tail, maybe taking opposite thumb on top this time. We loop the shoulders and draw the hands down towards the mat. Maybe shortening your stance. We inhale, straighten that front leg and bend from the hips. Half pyramid. Inhale, deep here, chest is wide open. Exhale, we bend the knee, releasing the hands. Hands come to frame the foot. And we're going, moving from the hip, one fluid motion, whoop, downward facing dog. We're here for one full inhale and one full exhale. Your exhale steps you up. Uttanasana. Let's root to rise, drawing ourselves up through the midline to mountain. Arms come up overhead. This time, take the arms exactly the way that they came, nice and wide. So we slowly draw the shoulder blades down the back. To our traditional mountain, palms face forward to the front of the mat. Excellent. We're going to do that sequence again on each side. So hands go down to come up. We take the full exhale to fold forward into Uttanasana. Fingertips come down to the mat. We walk the toes to touch, leaving 2 finger space between the arches and the heels. We inhale, swing the arms forward and up as we drop the hips. Chair pose. We're here for 2 breaths. And exhale into your fold. Right foot stays where it's at. Left foot steps back, low lunge. If this is too much for you, you can always drop that back knee, bringing the top of the foot down to the mat. We inhale, exhale, we power up to high lunge. Arms come up overhead. We're here for 2 breaths. Going tall in the spine. On your next exhale, fluidly, we pivot on the back foot, opening up, warrior 2. Inhale. On the exhale, we move. Back arm drops, front arm lifts as we straighten the front leg. Reaching towards the ceiling. Inhale. Exhale, we transition back to squaring off the hips at the front of the mat. So bending that front knee, pivoting on the back foot, maybe stepping that back foot up. We interlace the fingers behind the back, drawing the knuckles down the spine. Inhale, exhale, straightens that front leg, and we bend at the hips, looking out past the front edge of our mat. Like we're looking down into a pond. Maybe you come up onto the toes of that back foot. One more inhale. Exhale, we bend the knee, release the hands, and in one fluid motion, that's a new word. We're going right back into downward facing dog. Exhale steps you up. We stay nice and low in Uttanasana, bringing the toes together. Arches and heels with space. We inhale, arms swing up as hips sink back. Tail is reaching down towards the earth. If it helps for practicing stability, if you lift the toes, just to make sure that we're transferring weight where it needs to go. One more inhale. Exhale, we fold. Left foot stays where it's at as we step the right foot back, low lunge. We're light on the fingertips, still breathing down into the belly. And exhale, we rise, high lunge. Arms come up overhead. We grow tall. Exhale, we open, warrior 2. Bringing that pelvis right underneath the heart space. So we should be bringing the pelvis right in line with the hips and the knees. Growing tall up through the spine. Exhale, we drop the back arm, lifting the front arm and straightening the front leg. Reverse triangle. Inhale. Exhale, we transition, rotating hips, squaring off to the front of the mat. We pivot on the back foot, step up slightly. Hands interlace behind the back, right at the tail, and draw down towards the mat, opening the chest. Front leg straightens as we bend at the hip. Half pyramid. We're strong through the back leg, strong through the front leg. Our center is our center of balance. One more inhale, exhale. Release the hands, bend the knee, come to frame the foot. We're kicking it up. Downward facing dog. Woo, good work. Inhale, exhale. We'll drop the knees, take one rest in child's pose. And on your next exhale, we're using down dog as a transition. So we press into the tops of the feet, curl the toes, whoop, hips up high. And we're walking the hands back again. Hands back to the feet. Meeting and forward fold. And root to rise, we roll ourselves up to mountain. Arms come up overhead. Palms kiss together and go back the way they came, wide open. Beautiful. We're going to step just to the front or the middle of the mat here, just to give ourselves a little bit of room. Heel toe, the feet, excuse me, wider than the hips, coming at a 45-degree angle. So toes are pointing towards the midline, or excuse me, heels are pointing towards the midline. Toes are pointing away from your mat. And we start to sink ourselves down into our squat, our yogi squat. So if you want to kind of find that edge and reach down to grab the mat to help you get into your squat. And again, you can always bring a blanket up under the heels to give you a little bit more elevation. Otherwise, we bring elbows to knee, if that's available to you. Palms kiss together at the heart. And last but not least, we send the heart towards the thumbs. Yogi squats, malasana. Close your eyes if you feel that would be good for you. My oldest daughter is deaf, and so I learned a long time ago about all the interworkings of what makes a person be able to balance. And so yes, it is your the inner system behind the ear, but it is also your eyesight and then the ground beneath your feet. So if it doesn't feel safe from a balance perspective to close your eyes and cutting off that connection to your balance, that's okay. We're all going to take one more inhale here. Nice deep hip opening yogi squat. I know we've been here for a while. Inhale and exhale. You can begin to release. So we're going to come onto our backs if you want to get there by shifting forward and then dropping the knees and coming around that way. Or if you're in your squat, and you bring one hand in front, one hand behind, and we just drop the hips on back. When you get there, go ahead and bring the knees up to the chest. Hands wrap around the shins, either fingers interlaced, grabbing opposite wrists maybe. Or if you prefer to grab each shin individually, widening the knees towards the shoulders, that's fine too. Take one more inhale here. And on your exhale, now if you have a strap nearby that you like to use and you want to bring it into this posture, I know, we say we can do these without props. Sometimes a prop is necessary and it's still yoga. So do what feels good to your body. Otherwise, you can just hang on to the front of the shins. Otherwise, everyone, we're going to run the hands down the front of the shins, crossing over the tops of the ankles, coming to grab the outside of the feet. So at first, you're going to be in this tight little ball, almost like we do when we are in Supta Baddha Konasana or reclined bound ankle, reclined butterfly, better known as. So we're in some sort of variation of that. Inhale, and on the exhale though, we're shining the soles of the feet and the hamstrings up towards the sky. So heel or ankles stay right above the knees. We're giving this big compression in the front of the hips, coming into happy baby. If this feels unstable, whether you are like rolling to one side or the other and can't quite find that center, or maybe you're like me and you have a really bony spine and it's finding that sweet spot can be a little challenging. Imagine shooting your tailbone down towards the front of the mat. That's going to bring that little triangle of your low back more flush with the earth, giving you stability and a firm foundation. Chin is tucked to the chest, lengthening the neck. We're here for one more breath. And exhale, gently release the way that we came. So the soles come together and then descend down to the mat. Knees are going to come together, arches together. We scoop the tail slightly. So like we're scooping the tail of the spine up towards the ceiling, creating this little concave effect in the lower abdomen, bringing the low back flush with the mat. Arms come out wide to a T. We inhale, and on your exhale, both knees are dropping over to the left. We're still breathing down into the belly. And on your next exhale, belly button draws to spine. We move ourselves from our center through center and over to the other side. Knees drop over to the right. Exhale, belly button to spine, draws you back towards center, maybe taking it nice and slow. Get a little glute massage if you hit the right spot. Legs shoot out long, left foot to the front, left edge of the mat, right foot to the front right corner of the mat. Arms drop down by our hips, hands either pointing up to the sky. If you're feeling receptive, or palms face down to the mat if you're feeling like you're needing some grounding. We take as much time as we need in Shavasana, bringing our attention back to whatever commitments or thoughts or awareness we arrived at the beginning of our practice. Returning to we'll take one more inhale together. On your exhale, palms come together either at your heart space, maybe thumbs up to the third eye, or if that all feels just a little too much for you, go ahead and bring your left hand to your heart, right hand to your belly. Thank yourself for showing up to practice today. It's the hardest thing sometimes, showing up, returning to. You did it. I'm proud of you. And I'll see you on Friday.